call to order the January 29th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting. The Nebraska Open Meetings Act legislates the methods by which public meetings are conducted. Information pertaining to this act is available on the board clerk table. Sheila, can we get roll call, please?
Mitch Wagner.
Here.
Angela Blasey.
Here.
Emily Garrett.
Here.
Cindy O'Connor.
Present.
Skip Alton.
Present.
Joanne Green. Present.
All right. North Platte Public Schools is a destination school district and community that embraces innovative opportunities and distinguished programs to create highly competitive advantages for all students, instilling the canteen spirit in an evolving world. The canteen spirit embodies generosity, selflessness, and unwavering support through service, pride, collaboration, and grit. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the publication for the January 29th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the publication for the January 29th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Second. Sheila, roll call, please.
Angela Blasey.
Aye.
Emily Garrett.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Skip Alton.
Aye.
Joanne Green. Aye. Mitch Wagner.
Motion passes. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for this January 29th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for this January 29th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Second. Sheila, roll call, please.
Emily Garrett.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Skip Alton.
Aye.
Joanne Green. Aye. Mitch Wagner.
Aye.
Angela Blasey.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, at this time, please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will start this evening with board engagement. So if any board members wish to share, we've not had committee of the whole for several months now, so you probably have a lot to share if you wish. But feel free to share any school visits, school activities, trainings, workshops, anything like that.
Yeah, before I start, I think probably what we should do in the future is add this to like the December or January meetings.
Regular meetings,
So we
absolutely.
don't have 3 months worth.
Yeah.
Does that
Do you
make
have a whole
sense?
book over there, Sam?
Just about.
I love it.
On Friday, October 31st, I was asked to judge the pumpkin contest at Madison. This is how far back we go. I believe there were 14 pumpkins in total, and they were very creative. They were really, I saw Mrs. Carlson there, and she was judging as well. I was highly impressed with all that they did. It just shows, you know, the creativity that we have and the students we have in our buildings. On Tuesday, November 4th, I was able to see the North Platte High School contest play after the war. It was a serious play about Jewish people who survived the concentration camp and how they adapt to being back in real life. It was an excellent play. Unfortunately, they did not make it to state, but Mrs. McDaniel and the kids were great. She had a really large cast, and she had students from freshmen through seniors in it. Then on November 10th, I visited Buffalo Preschool. It was a great visit. I saw a lot of activities going on in all the classrooms. In Mrs. Cromie's classroom, all the students gave me a hug. And they come up to about my knee. But that was kind of neat. And I have always believed since we started this preschool how important it is. And data will show that the sooner students get to be involved in education, the better off they are. And thanks to Mrs. Bowman for the great tour and visit. And on December 17th, I was able to visit Eisenhower Elementary. I saw some great things going on. Kindergarten told me about what they had learned the day before about U.S. mints, where they were and what they did. Second grade, we're learning about angles. And third grade was learning about capitalization and action verbs. PE was doing game ball tennis into a bucket in teams, which was kind of neat to watch. And fifth grade was learning how to add numbers with decimals. So I thought all of that was really cool. And also at that time, students were painting ornaments the PTO had brought in art teachers who guided the students K through 3 in ornaments, and the next day, the 4 through 5, we're going to do a more complex project. And that worked out. I also saw their attendance chart on the wall and a positive recognition wall. Great visit. That was just a lot of fun. On January 13th, I wasn't able to attend the ESU meeting because I went to the reserve girls basketball game where I watched my granddaughter, who is the student manager. But she wanted to know when I was going to come watch her manage. So we went and we watched her manage. Probably won't be the last time. On January 20th, I visited McDonald Elementary. Had a great visit, a lot of education students going on. I saw a girl doing subtraction on her computer, and I just went behind her, and she was getting them all right, and then boom, 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 like 6 minus 3, and then she would hit 3, you know, and I was really impressed with it. Also, Mr. Jonason was there for students who were in the career ed class who are going to be watching classrooms for this quarter. There were 3 of them. I talked to all 3 of them, and they were all excited. They were all interested in becoming elementary teachers. And I thought that was really great. They all had a passion for what they were doing. He was very excited about how the students are really into this. Had a nice visit with Mrs. Flanders. Then this past weekend, Sunday, was my legislative committee meeting in Lincoln. We started at 11 o'clock Sunday morning, and we went through not all 72 bills that affected education. We got through about 60 of them until 4 o'clock. And then I attended the program that night. Joanne will talk more about that because she was there as well. And then the next day, Joanne and I both attended the Legislative Issues Conference, where senators came and talked to us. Colby Kovash talked about the bills and so forth. And then we had luncheon with the senators. However, Mr. Jacobson was not able to make it to the luncheon because he was having a treatment for what he was going through. So there's my 3 months.
Okay. So I also was able to go and judge the pumpkin contest. I was able to attend a few of the one-act performances, including their district performance in Fremont. They just did a phenomenal job. It was heartbreaking that they didn't make it to state. I probably cried every time I saw the play. It was that powerful. It was just a really good show. And one thing that I've seen that Mrs. McDaniel has posted on social media is that the man who is one of the characters in the story, she was able to share a video recording of the show with him, and he was able to show it to some of the other Holocaust survivors who are still living in their families. And so our kids just continue to have an impact further than North Platte and even Nebraska. So I thought that was really neat. And I know that for all of the shows that she adapts, she goes through a lot of work to get in touch with the people she needs to get in touch with to be able to get their permissions to adapt these shows. So I just really appreciate the work that Mrs. McDaniel puts into these things for the kids. January 16th, I was able to attend both the girls and the boys' home basketball games, and I was able to see the light show. That was a lot of fun. Then I attended the ESU workshop earlier in the month. We learned about taxes, and we had a presentation on just collaboration between board members and superintendents and other personnel in the school. And then I also, Mrs. Odell put out kind of an SOS. She needed another judge for the FCCLA kids before they went to district, and I happened to have some time. So I ran up and and did that, which that was really fun because last year last school year? Yeah, last year. Okay. We've had a lot of meetings lately. She was able to bring the kids that went to the national competition, and so it was really fun to get a little bit more intimate knowledge of the things that they have to go through to make it to the next level. Apparently the competition is really stiff. One of the Odell girls, there was a couple of them that competed. One of them got to go on to state, and the one that came and presented to us that won an award at nationals last year, she lost state by 1 point. And so she was pretty devastated this year. But it was really neat. I got to see a presentation on the clothing construction and everything that goes into that. And then also there was a young lady who she had created a box that she would keep all of her teaching supplies in. And then she had to show me her lesson plans, and they were all for like preschool age kids, and then she did a little presentation on her lesson plans, and so it was really neat to see, and then also to get to see and rate them on the things that the judges rate them on. So it was a good experience. So then, as Skip mentioned, I was able to go with him to the well, we traveled separately, but we were both at the Legislative Issues Conference. The first night, they had members of the commission that was put together by the governor for the purpose of reviewing school finance. And mostly what they talked about, because last year they only had a few months to meet, and then they had to have a report by the 1st of November. And so they spent a lot of their time just kind of laying the groundwork for the future meetings. This year they'll have to have a report to the legislature by the 1st of December. And so they didn't have any recommendations this year just because really, like I said, they were just laying the groundwork for what they're going to be doing in the future. And they said that this commission, as far as they understand it, is going to act in perpetuity. So it's not something that's just for a short time. They're going to keep it so that anytime there's something with school finance that needs to be discussed or researched or any of those kinds of things, then the individuals that are on this commission will be responsible for that. They said some of the topics that were brought up by the non-school, because there's superintendents, there's school board members, there are the commissioner of education, there are non-school people, and some former senators, but they said the non-school members, some of the topics that they were interested in was school spending, if there was any way that we could make adjustments to how much schools spend. They wanted to know what percent should come from the state, and then they also talked about if there were any possibilities for consolidation. They said one of the things that they found is that the tax authority, the levy, is kind of different throughout the state. And so they said there's even instances where they gave an example of one person who owned property in 2 different school districts, but the property was right next to each other than a dirt road that ran down the middle of it. And they said that the levy on one piece of ground was significantly lower than on the other piece of ground. And so even though they own both pieces because they're in different school districts, then they're paying significantly different tax rates. And so there's a proposal that I'm going to get to here in just a minute. See if there's anything else in my notes that I can see that I want to share. So they said they will probably be more ready to make recommendations in phase 2, which that has started this year. And they mentioned Senator Jana Hughes' bill, which I'll bring that back up in a minute. Okay, and so they also they're trying to figure out how they shift the conversation away from spending and more toward student achievement. So it'll be interesting, I think, and they've already had a few changes in committee members just because of different people's life circumstances. So, and then on Monday morning, we heard from Colby Kalash with NASB, and he said that Skip said that they're following about 72 bills. In total, there were about 581 bills that were introduced this year. And on Monday, that was day 13 of the 60-day session. And he said another thing that's kind of playing into a lot of what happens this year is that it's an election year, and it's a final year for a lot of the senators, and so those two factors kind of color a lot of what the senators will do. He mentioned that there is a $471 million deficit in the state budget, and so there's a lot of attention to what needs to happen to get that to balance, because Nebraska requires a balanced budget. And then we heard from Speaker Arch, and he said that they would have the budget out by day 40. And it has to be passed, and it has to be passed through all 3 rounds of debate and signed by day 50. So, and then he talked a little bit about the Revenue Committee and what they do, and the Appropriations Committee and what they do. And he said that the governor does not want to touch the rainy day fund. And they have money in the rainy day fund, and they have money in reserves, and so there's going to be different conversations around all of those types of things. And then Colby, while we were waiting for some of the other senators to come over, he talked to us about some of the other bills. So they gave us a packet that had all of the bills that NASB, and then they have in here how this committee that Skip is on, because they advise NASB as to whether they should support the bill or not support the bill, or if they are standing neutral on the bill. And so Colby talked about there's a bill by Senator McKinney that was he is in favor of 7th and 8th grade students playing in high school sports. So that's one that will be heard in the Education Committee. Holcroft has a bill with a change in provisions relating to school district bonds and bonds issued by a joint entity that includes a Nebraska school district or educational service unit. Brant has a bill that is a change of provisions relating to the valuation of agricultural land and horticultural land, and that one is in the Revenue Committee, and the Holdcroft bill is in the Government Committee, so not all of these bills will be heard in education. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there is a website, and I will get that for you guys so that if you want to follow any of the bills and kind of know how things are going as we go through. And then probably the biggest one was when Senator Janet Hughes came and she spoke about, she has a bill, it's LB 1038, and it has to do with funding for the schools. And so basically what she's hoping to accomplish is to get the levy, the local levy dropped from the current level of 105. She wants it to drop to 50 cents. And then the local effort rate would drop from $1 to 45 cents. And then she said that would result in 242 out of the 245 school districts being equalized. She said currently only 50 of the school districts receive equalization aid. So all of the school district levies would be between 30 cents and 50 cents, which would significantly narrow the current range, which is between 32 cents and $1.05. And then ag land would drop from 72% to 42%. Other real property would go from 96% to 86%. And it would eliminate the system averaging adjustment, and the special building fund outside of the maximum levy would be changed to 10 cents. And her proposal is that if the local effort rate drops to the 45 cents, then she says at that point the state is forced to come in and make up the difference. And so that's her proposal. There was one question that was asked by a board member that they said, what prevents the state from eliminating costs to get schools back to a four? So if this went through and then things happened so that, because you could still vote to raise your local effort rate, and someone asked what would prevent the state from eliminating costs to get schools back to the 45 cents, and she didn't really have an answer for that, but I think that's one of the things that we're always the most nervous about, is the more the state gets involved, then the less local control we have, and so we wouldn't necessarily have as much control over whether they get to keep the band program or whether they get to keep, some of the different, maybe some of our sports would get cut or something. So it's something to kind of keep an eye on. It sounds good, but at the same time, you have to kind of look at what you're giving up to. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that discussion goes. But we had about 4 senators come and speak, along with the Speaker of the House, and it was really interesting to be able to participate in that and hear some of the other concerns and questions that people have.
If you get on that website and look at Bill and you want to know why we voted up or down, you just can contact me, but I'm not going to go through all 60 on why we should or shouldn't. But if you have a specific one, then you can ask me, because I have the rationale written down in my notes. And obviously I would say of those 60, you might see 15 to 20, maybe even negative.
One other thing that I thought was really interesting, and they actually mentioned this a couple of times, So right now, Nebraska ranks pretty high as far as the amount of tax that people pay versus what the state pays. And there were a couple of different speakers who said that one of the things that the people who do these studies aren't taking into consideration is all of the back-end tax relief that comes. For example, like the money we get from the state for sped reimbursements and how they're front-loading the tax credits and those kinds of things this year. And so they said we're actually probably in the lower, maybe the middle to lower part as far as how the state supports education. So I guess take that for what you will, but we heard it from a couple of different sources that weekend. So that was kind of interesting too, because I know sometimes you see those things and you're like, oh gosh, we're like third and we're not supporting our, the state is not supporting our kids, but they said that's not actually true. So.
Okay, so I got to do the pumpkin decorating contest at Madison also. During the holidays, I stopped in the 4 schools that are in my ward and dropped off little goodie things to the principals. While I was at Jefferson, there was an issue going on with a student, and I got to witness how Dr. Eshelman and Mr. Furlong took care of it, and I was so impressed. It was unfortunately in the entryway, so we kind of had to get out of the building a different way, but just the love and compassion that they were showing was phenomenal in a very heated situation. So I appreciated that. I also went to the ESU in service, and the last speaker that we had that talked about collaboration with the board and the superintendent and admin and teachers and students, it was so inspiring. I don't know that I've ever left one of those in-services just ready to go. I was taking pictures of the slides that he was showing. I was ready to come out and go, and just, he made it feel like we actually do something. And so it was nice to be there. It was great that the majority of us were there. I wish everybody could have been there, but I totally understand, I skip that to be gone. Also, I checked into our line of credit that we've been using. This isn't the first year that we've used it. We've used it for 3, maybe more years. And we do it because of the way that the county is reimbursing us for the property taxes. So it's not a problem that it's been happening. The county doesn't actually give us our property taxes right when we need them. They trickle in, and so unfortunately we have to use that line of credit. We have been putting money the last few years into the cash reserves, and hopefully in a year or 2, we will not have to use that line of credit at all. I just wanted to make sure I did my due diligence when looking that up, and so hopefully next year at this time, 2 years in this time, that won't even be an issue. But it was brought up as a concern, and I just wanted to make sure I looked into it. That's all I got.
I will keep mine brief. There are several repeat things, including pumpkin decorating as well, and the ESC workshop. One of the highlights, since we haven't done this for a while, for me was the Veterans Day program at Jefferson. I had the opportunity to go that evening, and just the staff involvement and buy-in at that event or program is it was just very cool to see. They were excited to be there, spending an evening away from their own families, back at work, but just very, very excited and passionate about it. And the turnout that was there, the time period I was there, there were definitely no available seats. So a lot of students, a lot of parents, a lot of community members. And it was just really cool to see the different displays they had put together, and honestly just that respect for our veterans and that feeling of giving back to the community was really evident at that event. The ESU workshop was also, I felt, very impactful. Not only did I learn how to possibly argue my property valuations in the future, which is great knowledge to have, but really that speaker on leadership friendship and relationships. I think that was a workshop really that all leaders in our district would probably benefit from. I left there feeling a little bit rejuvenated and kind of finding that passion back in some situations where I was starting to feel a bit weary. So that was very good for me. I will be honest with you, I've not visited any schools this month. I have spent the majority of my month on the phone with a variety of places, including NASB, attorneys, search places, all kinds of things to navigate this month. So that has really been my core goal apparently the last few weeks. I am looking forward to, NASB has a President's Retreat coming up on February 16th. That's in Kearney. I appreciate that opportunity, not having to stay overnight and get a hotel room and do all the things, but I think that that will be a great opportunity to get some additional training. Unfortunately, I have not been on their monthly training calls for a little while. At some point along the way, I was unknowingly unsubscribed from the EMIS. So I missed that call yesterday, but I will look forward to being on that next one. And on the note of trainings through NASB, I will just put a little mention. There are several upcoming finance trainings that they put on. I registered for the Amplified one, which I believe is in Kearney again, but there's one in Ogallala. They're in a variety of places, so I would definitely encourage board members if you're feeling like you need some additional support and understanding the budget. Those are actually very helpful, I think, to go to. So. Anyone else have anything board engagement-wise? Sure. Okay. This one's for my question. All right, we will go ahead and move on then to the public comment portion of our evening. Public questions and comments may take place at this time in the agenda. Individuals who want to address the board must complete a guidelines for public comments form with the date, topic addressing, name, address, and the name of any organization you represent, and give it to the board clerk prior to the meeting.
I have none.
All right, I'll say the spiel.
I don't have a public comment, but we're just gonna move up and get here. And I didn't wanna like move and you guys like, what are you guys doing? And honestly, I want to use my phone here too, so maybe just a little more
Okay.
volume.
Yeah, it is hard to hear.
All the hours services.
Okay, we will all enunciate and project.
Yes, good, good, good.
I was just gonna say, Skip, can you give us a lesson?
Sure.
Okay, everyone situated? Sure. Thank you guys for your, I actually prefer to see you anyways. This is much better than just talking to a wall. Thank you. Okay, we will start our evening with our Lake Maloney update then. So we'll welcome up our staff members who are going to provide that update for us. Do you want me to present or? Yeah? Okay. We will definitely not fall asleep if everyone can see
feel
what
like
they
it's
need
gonna
to.
be better with the light off? See what it looks like?
Yeah, we'll let you put it up there. I think sometimes white, the backgrounds show up nicely on there, but I don't know what you're. It just got very quiet too.
Oh, yeah, it's the lights.
Is there like a half on, half off? It's all or nothing? Let's see what it looks like when you get it pulled up. If we can see it with them on, we'll keep it on. If not, we'll just get it off.
Is someone else on there by chance? It says it's already in use.
Mr. Mills give his staffing update and give you is that okay? Okay. No, don't apologize, you're just fine. Mr. Mills, are you okay with, there you go. Would you be okay with giving your staffing update real quick so we allow them a little bit of time so that's not just staring at them? Thank you, sir.
Well, I got that teacher voice. You can hear me. Greetings, everybody. Good evening. I want to let you know that the past several weeks we've been very busy recruiting. This is kind of our hiring season. Last week, Brandon Peterson, our communications director, and one of our Adams Middle School teachers, Rhonda Chia, went with me to UNK. We had a very engaging time. Students are outstanding. And then that will culminate with kind of the kickoff of the career fair. So after that, up next, we'll head to Wayne State College, Fort Hays University, which will be our entering into Kansas for the first time. Erica Johnson went down to Fort Hays in November for the SLP, Special Education Conference, and that's what we were just chit-chatting about over there. We had an SLP out there, so we're excited about that. And then traveling on to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and then Wyoming and Laramie, and rounded out with Northern Colorado. So we did get a preschool teacher hired, so we're very excited about that. Finally replaced our last preschool teacher that left us a year ago, as well as a band director for North Platte High School. Very excited about that. We spent Corey and I spent about 6 hours today interviewing. Dr. Damon got out, or Dr. McDonald got out on the last one, but we did our AD interviews today. So we had 3 groups. We had the candidates meet with students, and the candidates met with coaches, and then the candidates met with us, the administrators, and then they did a tour as well. So more news on that, hopefully very soon. Along with that, we've had some outstanding English language applications and interviews, and so we're about ready to move on that for the high school. Those are the 2 positions there. And then our biggest one obviously is elementary, so we're focusing on that. We've got something lined up for next week, and those applications are slowly starting to roll in. So those 2 positions are at McDonald and Washington, both full grade. Questions for me? Did I talk long enough?
Kevin, I had a question for you, and this might end up being a follow-up question for later, but in the spirit of just monitoring class sizes and making sure that we're not getting too large, I think we have a couple schools that are kind of right on that edge with some classes. If we have, a bonus amount of excellent elementary candidates, are we in a position that we can maybe look at adding some elementary
Absolutely,
roles?
absolutely.
Okay.
We wanted to do it prior to this, but now some of those creeping up. Talked to Dr. Rose a lot about that this past 3 months, that we would definitely want to hire and have that 3rd section.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, that's a concern that I think we all probably hear in the community and among staff a little bit, but you hate to, if you have multiple great applicants for a position, you hate to see one of them
Correct.
go when there might be a future need for them. So I
Correct.
was just curious.
Well, and that happened a year ago when we were able to add at Lincoln for that kindergarten class. We had made 3 sections per year. So yeah, definitely we want to fill those with those big numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you able, I mean, teachers need to be in their classrooms, but are you able to take staff with you often, teachers especially, to help?
Yeah, Brandon's probably the biggest one that goes, but Rhonda's working on her administrative degree, and part of that is HR. So I said, why don't you join us? So I invited her to the career fair to get some hours and see how, man, what a rock star.
Yeah.
And I did also speak to the three students in Mr. Jones's class, for education class, our 3 next teachers for North Platte Public School District. So I did make contact with them and spend some time with them as well. You guys ready to come right out of there?
That looks promising. I would imagine we're going to need that for our strategic plan update also, is that correct? Are you providing our strategic plan update? Okay, and I assume you're also using.
You guys have a PDF copy of the strategic plan attached though, so if we need to go through it, we certainly can. We
we need to improv, we can. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I don't understand. It's saying that it's already in use, and I don't know who it's in use like.
Totally off, but I don't think it's us.
Yeah, it's saying James.
Because this is the person.
No. It's not that here. Mrs. Fleck, if it doesn't work, would you want to reference your computer to give the presentation, and then you're always welcome to send that presentation out if you wish to? Yeah? Okay. I think that's just fine. I think we all value the information more than a pretty presentation if we have a choice to.
Like we need a tech person here.
We were just saying that.
Sorry, I'm not techy enough. I don't know what the problem is. And I mean, we could go to a classroom, but I don't think, and I mean, can I share it? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'll just go ahead and start and then I'll share it with you. I do have my guiding coalition here that was helping me, so thank you. I have Ashley Bailey, kindergarten, Pam Tillman, second grade, Missy Hopping, fourth grade, and Lori Keck, who's our speech pathologist. We also share her with our Redeemer and Jefferson. Did I cover all your buildings? Yeah. So they helped me present or get this presentation together, so I appreciate their help. We did have a really cute, we had all of our students say welcome to Lake on the first slide, so you're not going to get to see the glory of that. So we told them we were coming and had them say, welcome to Lake. But so basically kind of a rundown of our presentation is we kind of took our site plan and took our reading and our math so that you can kind of see like what our direction is for the year. We kind of decided as a guiding coalition that we wanted to kind of break some things down. And so for K2, and that's what these are for the reading, is I set this there for you so you can kind of see like a little glimpse of what our individual DIPLS goals are. So each grade level has one of these. And our goal is basically for each K2 for 80% of our students to meet or exceed their individual DIPLS goals. So the kids get to see this, and when they go and test with us, with the person that's doing their DIPLS testing, they know what their goal is. And so when we did this in December, from the middle of the year, 81% of our students met their goal. So, and that was K5. So I kind of did an all assembly and told them if we kept that up or went above that we would do something fun for our whole school. So we kind of did an all school incentive. So we are really excited about where we are and the growth that we're hopefully going to continue to make with that. So
We all saw your picture, by the way. We're on.
Oh, you're on.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So it got to have all its glories.
Okay, perfect. And then by the end of 25-26 school year, so we kind of looked at where we were with A-Quest, and we realized that we're doing great, but we also have decided that we want to be excellent, and so we kind of broke down what we want our scores to be in order to be that excellent school. And so for NSCAS 3.5, proficiency-wise, we want our students to be at 75% for reading. So then we took that even a little bit further, and we kind of talked about what each grade level needs to be at by the end of the year. And so third grade needs to be at 80% proficiency in reading, fourth grade 67%, and then fifth grade 80%. And on our WOW slide, I'll kind of talk about, and I know NSCAS and maps are kind of a little bit different, but it's kind of a little dipstick of where we are right now, which is a huge celebration. So, and then math, we kind of took the same approach, but instead of doing a DIPLS, our curriculum teams took and we had guaranteed standards for math. So we took that, and for K2, we want 90% of our students to show mastery on our guaranteed standards. And so for our site plan, we decided that in order to do that, each time we do that, and they do that quarterly, that we are, or each semester, is that we are going to take our kids and we have little boards that we are taking their pictures and moving them so that we know which students need to continue on those standards so that we can have a track and make a goal for those kids that haven't mastered those standards yet. So, and then for 80% of our students, 3-5, we want them to have the percentage proficient on math, on NSCAS math. And so then we broke that down again for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So 3rd grade 80% proficient, 4th grade 74, and then 5th grade is 85% proficient. So they're high goals, but we want to just continue to keep pushing so that our kids are meeting that excellent so. And then these are kind of just a few action steps that we feel like that we're doing to meet those things. Being single track, you know, that it's hard, but we have divided our kids into like K1 is sharing kids during mighty time, so we're really working on, you know, some kids might be going to kindergarten and they're getting some skills and standard-based things that they need, and we're sharing if they're a kindergartner, but we feel like they can do some first grade things, they're getting pushed up to first grade. So we're really student-centered and skill-based in that, and so the same thing, so that's across the board. Second and third is doing that, and 4th and 5th is doing that. So they're collaborating with fan time, and they're kind of doing those kinds of things. So we're kind of utilizing that single track to kind of share kids, even though we're only one. So, and then 3-5 is using the table of specs during IE time to prep for that MSCAS. And then we're doing our guaranteed standards quarterly, and then it's called a module assessment for kindergarten, and then obviously using reinforcements, just like this here. So when they met this, they got a piece of candy, and if they met all 6, they got 6 pieces of candy, so just little reinforcement things. So, and then behavior-wise, we kind of took our Swiss data from last year and kind of broke down which things we wanted to decrease. And we felt like physical aggression was kind of a big thing, and then defiance. So we're just kind of looking at that quarterly and kind of trying to decide what we want to reduce. And then we looked at that again in December, and we kind of noticed that it's like the same 10 students that are popping up. And so we're just really implementing more voice-down practices. We're doing like a Mindful Monday where everybody on the speaker, and we're kind of just all taking a moment to kind of just be mindful, stopping everything and reading just for a little bit of time, just to kind of calm down for a little bit, doing extra zones of regulations, and our counselors here a little bit more, so he's going into the classroom and teaching that to everybody. And then he's doing some small group interventions that's involving those templates to kind of help decrease that a little bit. So, but our goal is kind of to reduce the physical aggression from 30% to 25%. And then our attendance, we really wanted to hone in on that 5 to 10 days. Last year we had 34 students that were like kind of in that 5 to 10 day category. And quarter 2 we only have 6 kids so far that have missed in that category. So we're doing a really good job. So we've really just been celebrating attendance, giving out reports, doing monthly celebrations for classes that are above 95%. So just really working on too, like if students are having an at-risk chronic behaviors, just kind of talking to their parents and asking if there's something that we can do to help support them. And then on the last one, this is kind of just our ladder slide and kind of things that we feel like are going well. So math reading percentiles, 3rd grade was at the 85th percentile in winter, and 4th grade was at the 80th, and 5th grade was at the 90th. So we're showing some really good progress so far. So we want to keep the ball rolling. 80% of our students met their goal for this, like we had kind of talked about on their Dibbles rules. And then 95% of our students have missed less than 5 days. So that's only 6 students that have missed more than 5 days of school. So things are rocking and rolling, and we're going to continue to keep pressing on. So. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Black?
I don't have a question for Mrs. Black, but I'd like to hear from the teachers on something in this plan that you're excited about. Or maybe that you find as a challenge, but you might be excited about it.
I love to see the growth on Dibbles, and then as it goes up through those NSCAS and the maps, that it is that cycle that starts on day 1. In my classroom, we did see a lot come out of the red up into either green or even blue. So just watching the growth, knowing that what we're doing is working, the curriculums we've adopted are working. So
in general, but we don't want to be okay with that complacent, so we have made goals to make them higher, and then not only just made the goal, but we talked about specific strategies that we can use to get them there. And I think the teachers and the system, they just work really well helping each other brainstorm and find ways to do that. So I think that's good.
I'm very excited to work on our side of this group and to look at the data and to come up with interventions to help push the students to go even higher. So it's just really exciting to be a part of it.
Well, I just really have to hand it to Mrs. Black because right before Christmas break, she came to each of us and we really dug deep into our givers. And we looked at the strugglers and how we could maybe help them in a different way. And so we're doing some different strategies with them, and I'm anxious to see. I'm sad that we aren't going to be able to see Telly Dibble again, but I'm anxious to see if these new strategies that we put in place are going to work. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I really want to commend you on, I think it is easy sometimes when you set goals, and especially if they're already pretty lofty goals, and then you hit that goal, I think we all have a tendency to just want to like enjoy that goal and maybe become a little complacent. And I'm hearing from all of you, like, we hit that goal, what's the next goal? And I really appreciate that attitude. But I also do want you to pause for a little bit and celebrate what you get, because I think these math scores are really amazing. So, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll go to the other side and project this way.
Okay, so if you're following along on our agenda, we've already done staffing updates, so we're now on to our strategic plan updates.
Okay, so our strategic plan, of course, is grounded in our district mission. Mrs. Garrick read our district mission earlier this evening, but just in case you didn't hear it, North Platte Public Schools is a destination school district and community that embraces innovative opportunities and distinguished programs to create highly competitive advantages for all students, instilling the canteen spirit in an evolving world. The canteen spirit embodies generosity, selflessness, and unwavering support through service, pride, collaboration, and grit. We have 3 strategies that our strategic plan is grounded in, and so I will read those strategies. Strategy 1 is that we will increase the academic success of students and the efficacy of staff. Strategy 2 is we will maximize current staff skills and expertise while being resourceful and innovative in recruiting new staff. And strategy 3 is we will embrace and capitalize on the growth and change within our district and community. Tonight, Lindsay and I are going to provide an update on the action steps that reside under strategy, some of the action steps that reside under strategy 1 and strategy 2.
So the first first strategy that we decided to focus on as a district was specifically strategy 1.1, which is to strengthen our professional learning communities framework to improve academic achievement for students and professional efficacy for staff. So we'll talk about each action step and kind of summarize. You guys have the presentation that has all the bullet points. There's a lot of information there.
We won't read them all.
So we'll just kind of highlight a few of the happenings under each action step. So the first action step is to strengthen PLCs or professional learning communities within collaborative teams to regularly discuss student achievement. Some of the ways that we've been doing that so far is that our collaborative teams are really focusing on that intervention and enrichment time, and like Lake spoke, using the data and really analyzing and digging deep into that data. Our continuous improvement teams and our guiding coalitions are all working together. They're aligned with our building site plans, are also aligned with our strategic plan and our district goals. So it's really exciting to see how that's working in all of our buildings. Through that use use of data, our staff efficacy is really being strengthened, and so that's exciting to see, and I love your testament to that. Principals are modeling the use of data. Our middle school teams are leveraging the middle school teaming model to really be able to talk about what they can do to change their instruction and make a difference for students. Discussions during the PLCs are focused on student learning and next steps for the teaching of that. And then vertical alignment across grade levels is being emphasized. So we're talking about not only grade levels meeting across the district, but then also 6-8 teams and 9-12 teams and building K-5 teams. So a couple other things, we're always guiding our meetings with structured agendas, so they're very purposeful. Our staff are utilizing feedback. They're getting some good feedback, receiving that well through walkthroughs and doing some peer observations to focus around that work.
So action step number 2 under strategy 1 is to establish high expectations and clear goals for student achievement by prioritizing essential standards within our guaranteed and viable curriculum. And really the work of this action step has been led by our teacher teams across the district. They've put in a great deal of time and energy and work on our Wednesday PLCs and our summer curriculum writing teams to identify those guaranteed standards that we want students to know and be able to do by the time they exit each of their grade levels. They work in the summer on setting high expectations. We're really excited about our life skills PLC, who have collaboratively developed extended indicators to ensure that all of our students, including those who have unique learning needs, are supported in achieving those essential outcomes as well. The district also utilizes our multi-tiered system of support to outline how we can intervene when students are either not achieving proficiency or when they need to be stretched or strengthened after they have achieved proficiency. Again, staff efficacy continues to grow as educators continue to collaborate on those Wednesdays, looking at data, working with their administrative teams to align their instructional practices when shifts need to happen instructionally within classrooms to meet the needs of all of our students. And then teams are clearly identifying and implementing also those enrichment and extension opportunities for students that have demonstrated proficiency.
The third action step is to maximize the use of district-adopted high-quality instructional materials that challenge students to think critically and deepen their understanding of essential grade level knowledge and skills. So one of the ways we do this is teachers are intentionally utilizing the district-adopted curriculum. That's really important to us so that everyone is using common language, and we're ensuring that our curriculum has coherence or a connected progression as students progress through our school system. Educators are also continually refining their teaching practices. They're being very reflective, and they're thinking about what they can change to help students learn, and they're really putting student learning at the focus of all their decisions.
So action step number 4 is to train staff on interpreting and applying data to guide instructional decisions to maximize student growth. Teachers spend time documenting and discussing different types of reteaching to ensure those instructional adjustments. Reteach has been a big focus in all of our buildings. We select those skills that are grounded in those guaranteed standards. We assess students, and then we determine what reteaching or extension needs to happen as a result of that data. The collaborative teams are strategically building instructional groups based on the data, which some of you have shared tonight, the DIBELS data, and again, making testimony to those instructional shifts that you're focused on for the second semester. Principals also are modeling effective use of data by doing data digs in subgroups of all of our subgroups for all students. Not only do we do that collectively at the district level at our administrative councils, but principals are also taking that back to their staff, and they're spending time on their Wednesday PLCs doing those data digs. The middle schools are celebrating their success of the implementation of ICU, which is a homework tracking program that they have implemented. One of the benefits of that is the ongoing communication that families have about how their students are or are not completing their work in a timely fashion. The high school has also really focused on providing a shared calendar so that colleagues and administrators know when that reteaching is actually occurring. so that walkthroughs are more effective and feedback is given to teachers as they make their way through those reteaching opportunities. Teachers are also intentionally documenting those reteaching opportunities within their lesson plans. And that Wednesday collaboration time is really planned in advance, allowing teachers to review their most current, in-the-moment, timely data. So again, they can make informed decisions as they move their students through learning throughout the course of those following weeks.
The fifth action step is to design building level schedules and academic calendars that support PLCs to guarantee a focus on learning for students. So we are very appreciative of the district calendar because it has been structured to support that PLC framework. It also supports building collaborative time, also grade level collaborative time, content teams. So there's lots of different teams that are able to come together to have great PLC discussions. Schedule adjustments have been made to allow for co-teaching. Teachers are able to collaborate with the content area teachers, especially special education teachers, content area, and they're to really effectively co-teach and support student learning and then also discuss that progress later together.
Action step number 6. Action step number 6, to facilitate peer-teacher observations, to observe each other's classes and offer constructive, actionable feedback to support professional growth and collaborative learning. Walkthroughs are an increasingly focused time during intervention and enrichment. Teachers are also participating in peer-to-peer or colleague-to-colleague walkthroughs where they go and visit one another's classrooms. And we also do that throughout our teacher mentor program, where our new teachers are going into veteran teachers' classrooms and mentor teachers are observing those that they are mentoring to provide timely feedback as well. Staff are actively also refining their teaching practices based on those observations and feedback.
Then the last two, evaluating student academic performance data annually and evaluating staff professional growth and efficacy data annually. We're doing that right now. I think especially that first one we talked about, we've heard a lot about the data, and so we definitely have gotten better at that this year, about being very intentional about looking at that. The one thing that I would add to that is we're also really analyzing subgroup data more so than we have before. So how are our students in special education doing, or EL students, or different ethnic groups, and so it's really making sure that we're seeing progress with absolutely all of our students. Okay, so then that's a summary of the first 1.1 first action step that we're focused on.
Can I pause you real quick before you go on to the next, just so we're still on this topic real quick?
Yes.
Are there things within this particular area of the action plan? Because I think that some of these things, there are a lot of board decisions that impact these specific goals and steps to reaching those goals. One, budget-wise, I think probably what got us to this point initially were some changes that were made budget-wise with no longer doing outside professional development and taking some of this in-house, but then also things like looking at calendars and those things that we approve at a board level. I think it would be great for us to know if there are any additional things as a board that are kind of falling within our purview that we can do to better support reaching these goals. Does that make sense? So not that I'm trying to put you on the spot to have an answer right now, but as we're reflecting on this data partway through the school year, I would like maybe for you to put some thought into that. If there are things that we see policy-wise that are making it hard to accomplish some of these things, or continually needing to change things with scheduling, calendar, those types of things. I think the board would love to have that feedback, because sometimes we make decisions here and we don't always see that trickle down effect until a couple years later, you come back and give a report to us. So,
Yeah, we'll take that not only, to the administrative council, because it'll be good for, as some of you are here, to be thinking about that, and staff as well. What are some of the things, or if there are any barriers that we need to identify that's going to help, continue the trajectory of, our growth and our student learning. So yes, we definitely appreciate that. Thank you. Strategy 2.1 well, actually, strategy 2, we will maximize current staff skills and expertise while being resourceful and innovative in recruiting new staff. These are really short and brief, we promise.
The first one, build community and culture at the district and building level through a variety of activities. We have social committees and culture clubs at each building. All of our building coalition teams, as well as our admin teams, they do a really good job of making sure that the culture is strong in their building. So they have various activities such as, potlucks, cook-offs, staff appreciation days, things like that. Our Birth to 5 group's been really intentional about having building-wide planning for all of the staff that serve our Birth to 5 students, and planning family events in collaboration with outside agencies like private daycare, so preschools. Been very intentional about doing team building activities and some book studies. So our admin team is doing a book study on called Finding Your Balance.
Action step 2 is to seek teacher input to inform future professional development that maximizes staff skills and expertise. So we have begun initiating surveys. Last year, for example, surveying teachers on how the beginning of the year should actually look. Do you want a full day of PD? Do you want an outside speaker to come in? What are some of those things that you might enjoy having? And basically, how can we improve professional learning for you? Because that's they're the #1 impact on our classrooms. I think another powerful thing that the entire district has done is not only does the district have a guiding coalition made up of administrators and teachers from all buildings, but each building has their own guiding coalition, and that creates more of a structured feedback loop where everybody feels like they have a voice and that they can go to their building's guiding coalition. That then is translated up to administrative council. We discuss those things, and even at the district guiding coalition, we're addressing that feedback from them. So their voice is very important.
The third one is to expand the STAY survey implementation to better utilize data to promote staff retention. So we've developed a more robust STAY survey with actionable staff feedback that we've gathered. Also, we have gathered from staff just different insights to guide improvement efforts, and that kind of goes along with what Vicki was saying with the guiding coalitions, and I think not just surveys, but just having the collaboration culture at our buildings that we're able to really listen to our staff and identify what needs that they need as well.
That STAY survey must have just been sent out recently.
That's a Mr. Mills question, because he's the one that really has made a lot of these things come to life.
I've
The
had
STAY
lots of
survey.
questions. They thought it was like the board that sent it out. So I was like,
Oh,
I'm
oh.
betting it's the STAY survey. So
Yeah.
Have we sent the STAY
It's
survey?
in play right now.
Yeah, okay, it's in play.
I said, I bet it's the STAY survey.
Yeah.
It's in the strategic
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah. So another action step is to strengthen our mentorship programs for paraeducators, teachers, and administrators to guide their professional practice and personal growth. So both certified and classified mentorship programs are in place. Mentor support extends not only to teachers who are new teachers, but even our teachers that are seeking alternative certification programs. We also have our administrative council who supports one another through leadership, mentorship, and collaboration across our buildings.
The fifth one, provide pathways for leadership and advancement. Really highlight the parent-to-teacher program. We're really proud of that program. Had a lot of great success over that. So that's a really exciting opportunity that we're seeing come to life in our district. Along with our administrative council, we offer leadership development. I think we prioritize meeting together, coming together every week to make sure that everyone's in line with that. And just have different leadership pathways to help identify and cultivate our internal talent. We're always trying to grow our own. We do have teams across the district, such as like curriculum writing teams, guiding coalitions that also give teachers opportunities to have a voice and step into leadership.
And a big shout out to Mr. Mills on that Teacher program. And I know he's reported on that before, but it's going to be pretty exciting and dynamic when we start seeing those paras who are in teacher programs growing our own, getting their certification and funneling right back in, knowing that we would love to have 100 applicants to choose from, and that's just not how the world turns right now. So, action step number 6, evaluate and refine current practices for onboarding and induction activities. Again, Mr. Mills has done a lot around this. He has helped organize or basically led the week-long onboarding session in July that has been implemented for new hires, so they come in at their own time to get onboarded. New hires also start 4 days prior to the entire staff beginning, where they get that additional training and kind of grounding and used to their building and time in their building. Flexible onboarding options are also offered for staff that maybe can't come during those designated times throughout the year. And mentorship and culture building are supported and integrated into that induction process. As you guys are aware, we offer the mentor program for all of our new staff.
Number 7, acknowledge and celebrate individual and group achievements. So we have a lot of different things that are happening in the buildings. One of them is weekly staff shout-outs that appear in both the building and the district newsletters. Staff of the Month recognitions, which you guys are very aware of, for classified and certified employees. Our Bulldog All-Star program. Social media and newsletters also features staff achievements and some just special events that we like to do.
One of the things that we started incorporating as a little bit for Action Step 8 is explore flexible work arrangements that support staff well-being and work life, such as the discretionary days, floating days. We had flex days on our calendar, clear boundaries for after-hours communication to try to promote that balance. You know, I mean, yes, of course, every educator for the rest of their life are on call 24/7, but we do try to encourage boundary setting for that. And then Lindsay mentioned earlier that the Administrative Council is doing the Finding Your Balance book study because we know that we need to emphasize the importance of that personal balance with your work life. And so I think we've really gleaned a lot of wonderful conversations amongst administration to try to figure out how to do that.
The next one, provide professional learning on building and growing cultures in school for our leaders. We have an ongoing partnership with Solution Tree that supports leadership development around culture and also just leadership coaching with Josh Ray. He is our Solution Tree consultant that helps provide targeted professional growth for our admin team.
The last one, Action Step 10. We are committed to annually utilizing staff retention and staff climate data to evaluate the staff retention success. And I do feel like our district does have a great celebration because our current trend data does reflect a decrease in the staff resignations, indicating we are making positive progress. Exclamation point. I mean, it's exciting to see all the things that are happening in our strategic plan. Questions for us?
No questions, but I agree with you on what you show is things that are going on and how effective they are in this section.
I also like that it's not just words, like we can actually see it. So that's really exciting too. It's not just that we hear about it, but you can see it. And that's what makes it even more exciting.
Good presentation.
But a lot of words. Gosh, I mean, we're working hard, but wow, that's a lot to read on.
Will the board be able to see results, for instance, like from the stay survey and those kinds of things? Will those results be brought to the board, I assume?
The state survey results, they're wondering if that can be presented to the board.
Yeah, we're collecting it right now, and so I'll give them, I think I made it next Friday. So we'll go through that.
Yeah, I think that's, like, it's great to see everything that's being done, and especially when you see it all collectively here, like, you really can feel everyone is moving in the same direction. And I think it's really reassuring for us as a board anytime that we have, not necessarily that a survey is like number data, but data that supports like, here's what we've been doing for the last year, here's where that got us. I think that that's really valuable to us. I know as a board we appreciated even a survey about dress code. I think that maybe there's a feeling of like when we're requesting information that somebody's like against something, and I just want to communicate that's not the case. Wanting to look at data provides us reassurance that the decisions that we're making that are trickling down and impacting other people are having the impact that we desire. So I know that was an example of a survey that that was not necessarily a decision I was on board with, but seeing the data doesn't lie. So, that was reassuring for me of this is a positive change. So I think something like a stay survey, the other things that we're doing to gather that information, I think is really valuable for us. Because we are pretty far removed. There's a lot of steps in between layers of people, so for that information to reach us is very helpful.
Is the stay survey like for district-wide or building-wide?
District.
District, okay. I had a few questions on that.
We're actually the next.
You are up next. Yeah. Right back at it.
Let's see. This one is really short. Okay. So, the board has been provided a hard copy, a PDF copy of our Committee on American Civics. So tonight's information shared meets the district's requirement to provide an update on our American Civics compliance for January of 2026. The school board of each school district shall, at the beginning of each calendar year, appoint from its members a committee of 3 to be known as the Committee on American Civics. The January board meeting, Angela Blasey, Joanne Lundgren, and Cindy O'Connor were appointed. So thank you for serving on our committee. So this document was sent to that committee via email to the newly appointed committee on January 26th of 2026. The first 2 pages of the document outline the broader responsibilities of the committee and the district, including but not limited to the timing of meetings we're required to hold 2 every year, social studies standards and curriculum alignment, assessment criteria, and the accessibility of materials to the public. Pages 3, 4, and 5 outline all social studies approved courses for all grade levels in our district, the 4 domains or discipline of our social studies courses and curriculum, which are civics, economics, geography, and history, and specific course topics and course offerings within each academic level. And finally, it also outlines the adherence to appropriate patriotic exercises that must occur in all buildings throughout the year. Although brief, this does bring us to the end of the Northwest Public School District's American Civics Compliance Update. More specific details and information may be found in the attached document within this evening's Committee of the Whole board agenda, which the public should be able to access as well. Any questions?
Okay, next up is the financial literacy report and the computer science and technology report. So this report is a result of Nebraska Revised Statute, otherwise known as the Financial Literacy Act. Within that act, we are required to do some things to our Board of Education. So this act is required for all public schools. The class of 2024 in public schools must now complete a course in personal finance or financial literacy as defined by this statute. And that is a graduation requirement. The literacy instruction applies only to public schools and must be included in the instructional programs of elementary and middle schools as well. So we'll highlight that in a minute. And then each school district shall provide a financial literacy status report annually to its Board of Education. That's why we're here tonight. And then the board also has to adopt the academic content standards for financial literacy as part of the social studies standards. So just to highlight elementary a little bit, so it starts very early in our kindergarten program. It's our curriculum, it's just needs versus wants. That's a really good thing for all students to start learning, right, Ashley? And then they kind of go into earning money, learning about supply and demand, and then it gets into like spending and saving, and then by 5th grade a little bit into the investing category. So that is how financial literacy starts in early grades.
Financial literacy in the middle grades is included in the 8th grade social studies standards. So in 2019, NDE adopted social studies middle school standards that were revised to include all of those domains of economics where personal and business financial management are included. We also cover many of the standards in our family and consumer science courses in middle school. They're introduced to into a lot of terminology and concepts regarding financial literacy, everything from money management to how banking systems operate, concept of credit systems, identity theft, and other factors that impact consumer decisions. Financial literacy at Northcliffe High School, as Lindsay indicated, beginning with the graduation cohort of 24, according to the statute. Every district in the state of Nebraska had to add at least 5 credit hours to the minimum amount for students to complete in personal finance and/or financial literacy. So personal finance covers all of those essential personal finance topics, such as banking, credit card use, budgeting, investment, insurance, and much more. So the board is able to see a slide of our financial literacy progress cohort. And so each year we are required to report what percent of students within a cohort, graduation cohort, completed that graduation requirement. Everybody always panics when they see that we do have a small sliver percent of students that did not meet the requirement. That is due to this list of things. They were homeschooled, they were life skills students, they did not graduate, or they dropped out of high school. So that's the category that 18% falls under. But if they did not fall into those categories, all of our cohort met requirement.
All right, so then going into the Computer Science and Technology Act requirements, this started this school year, so the 25-26 school year. Each district shall now include computer science and technology education aligned to the academic content standards in the instructional program of its elementary, middle, and high schools. So at the elementary level, it is required to be included within the instructional program at the elementary level, so it does not have to be a separate course. But we do interweave that within the classroom, and then also with our library media specialists. They teach topics such as digital citizenship, responsible use of technology, research using digital sources, and then we also start teaching them keyboarding skills from a very young age.
Computer science in the middle grades, we do offer specific courses at each grade level. 6th grade, they complete a computers class. In 7th grade, they do an intro to business technology that covers a variety of those standards as well. And in 8th grade, we offer a multimedia course which covers things such as digital citizenship, and then they learn really cool things like web design, Canva, and HTML. Computer science and technology in the high school, again, according to legislation and state statute, beginning with the graduation cohort of 2028, so that would be our current 10th grade students. They have to complete at least 5 of their graduation credit hours in a computer science and technology related course. So when we get to that point, we will report out that percentage. But we do offer 3 introductory level courses within 3 different programs of study to meet state statutory requirements. Our district chose to do it this way by offering and covering all standards in either digital media, information technology applications 1, and information technology fundamentals, so that would not disrupt the 3 career education pathways that we offer out of that department. We could have just offered 1, but then that would have caused disruption in our completers or education pathways for our digital media pathways.
And are each of those are each 5 credits. So one of those courses.
Yes. They can select one of those courses, and that would be the introductory course to a 3-course pathway to be a completer within computer science.
Is there a particular year that you're encouraging students to take that, or that just as long as they take it?
They have to complete it before graduation. I would probably say we have more sophomore, junior, seniors taking those classes because, that freshman year is pretty tight with restrictions, but yeah, they just have to have it completed by the time they graduate. The last slide says thank you. You're done. Thank you.
I can tell you that my granddaughter, who's a freshman, is in digital media right now.
Good.
And she loves it. In fact, she has to get my computer out and then get to her so she can show me the things that she has done over that past week. And I'm really impressed with the things that they're doing. Really am.
It's a pretty robust department. They do amazing things. All the teachers do.
Okay, our next one will be brief. We have an item on here just to discuss moving the date of our February committee of the whole meeting. It is currently scheduled for February 26th at Buffalo. There are currently 3 board members that I know of that cannot make it on that date, so we would not have a quorum. And so I reached out, Dr. McDonald, spoke with him at Buffalo. I gave him maybe a couple of options of dates to look at around that area of time, and they had expressed that Monday, February 23rd worked the best for the building. So I am just looking to verify that we at least have a majority of the board that can be there Monday, February 23rd. We cannot.
I can.
I guess, yes, okay. One more yes.
I should be okay.
Okay. All right, we're good. Okay, we don't need to take any formal action on that. We've moved dates around before for meetings as needs come up. I'm just glad that we figured this one out early enough that we weren't week of not having it. So we will get that process or get that moved over, and we will plan on meeting February 23rd
At Buffalo.
at Buffalo. Yes. Thank you. All right, moving on to our second half of our 5,000 series of policy review. So this is just our discussion surrounding these policies. Mitch, you're kind of jumping in right in the middle of a policy review cycle, so we're kind of on the tail end of this. But basically what we typically do is if there are any things that are just formatting notes or things like that, we just email them to Sheila, who has a very fun job of fixing those. So if you notice anything like that in the review of those policies, we don't have to discuss those types of changes. They can just be sent over. Anything that is, a question or recommended change on content, then we just kind of go through order by order and discuss those in committee of the whole. When we come back to our next regular meeting of the board, the idea would be to, if there are any changes to any of these policies, that we adopt them at that time. So first and foremost, before I open it up to any board discussion, Dr. McDonald, was there anything from your point of view in any of these policies that you thought board needed to take a look at?
Yeah, I just went back to KSB and their policy on the website. You can go back and see some of the recommendations. None of these policies were in the last recommendations from the amendments. Obviously this legislative cycle could change some of that depending on what happens, and they can come back in the summertime and recommend some amendments or changes. But this time,
and probably some important context also for our newest board member. We kind of have some hybrid policies happening. So the district did use Perry Law Firm and then switched a few years back to KSB, and they have their own policy manuals. But in the process of that, there was kind of a hodgepodge combination of things that happened. So over the past few years, this is now our second cycle in the last 3 years of policy review, we're kind of cleaning up where things maybe were contradicting each other or didn't quite make sense or weren't actually what we were able to do in practice. So the goal is, once we get through these, we should be pretty closely aligned probably to KSB's recommendations with some of our own needs added in there. So just for some context as we discuss these. Okay, so looking through, is there anyone that had any notes or questions about 5036? 5037? 5039, I had one note on there, and that I don't know that it needs to be spelled out in policy. This might be more like a handbook thing, but it says that an administrator has to approve fundraising. I assume that's a building administrator, but I wasn't sure if that's spelled out anywhere or what we're doing in practice.
typically it would be either building or activity or
Okay.
whatever you need in charge.
whatever would oversee that area that's fundraising. Okay.
I don't know on that one. Just put that up there, stupid. I didn't know if that was just for like a sports team or a group, or like, I guess I'm looking at you spots. Or is it like an individual who's gonna go on a trip and they wanna do a fundraiser, do they still have to go through you, even though it's an individual child? Okay.
Maybe it's school, the administrator or administrative policies that were.
Right, okay.
Excellent. Anything on 5040, 5041, 5042? So we covered that, so I'm just trying to get us through this. 5043, 5044.
I had one comment on 5044.
Yep.
I just noticed on the third page, on G, it says that the documentation, there's something about incident form attached here too, that they have to complete the incident form attached to the policy.
So we just need to attach the form.
Yeah, so I'm reading it off of our agenda. I didn't go to the website, but just wanted to make sure that it's attached because it's like this.
Thank you. Okay. 5045, I just wanted to make sure that what we had in there is actually accurate. This one kind of outlines like the cost of courses. If somebody's taking like a college course, for example, I didn't know if that amount was still accurate or if we needed to maybe make a change to that to reflect what's happening.
I actually had a comment on that as well, just because I know, for example, this year, students that are enrolled at the high school don't have to pay tuition, and I'm wondering if there's a different wording we can use for that, just so that we don't have to keep up with the dollar amount every time that the college changes. And not that it happens real often, but it's just one of those things that you really have to keep on top of, where your policy's outdated really quickly.
Maybe a place that we direct them to reference for that amount elsewhere. Do you have any input on that, Mr. Skutansky? We can't hear you guys. Okay. Sorry.
I know you're talking about 5045.
Yeah, so it's a policy that outlines student fees, and there's a spot in there that specifically mentions like the dollar amount for a college course. But as Joanne said, you know, some students during certain periods of time may not be paying for that. The college may increase their tuition rate. Is there a practice or a place where you have fees internally that maybe we could adjust the policy to where the number's not included in there?
That would probably be a good idea.
Like this year, it's.
Well, because there is no tuition.
Yeah,
It's
this
like,
year
so
was
that's
free.
a good point.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not really a number we control anyways, so putting it in our policy.
But doesn't it say the
It's
maximum amount?
Seven.
So that's just, we won't go above that?
The
Right.
last sentence is
Yeah, it says the fee is anticipated to be, and then it gives a dollar.
$3.92.
Yeah,
Okay,
so I just think we need to figure out
We
the
probably need to
difference.
reword the language on that
Yeah.
to, as set by, set up tuition or something that's really neutral in general.
Right.
So that, it's like this year, they charge tuition for
Right.
dual credit classes, yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I do think there could be opportunities for students, especially with online programs anymore, that may not necessarily come through Mid Plains Community College.
Sure.
And so there might need to be some different language there, just in case.
Maybe just where it says will naturally vary.
Yeah.
Also on that same policy, if you go to number 13, it says that there is a list. It says the following list details the maximum dollar amount of all. And I don't know if we're going to have a list or, if we just need to take that sentence off.
We might want to eliminate that, but yes, there is a fees document that kind of outlines like all class fees. So
also had another one on that one. Apparently that's the policy of the night. In 14G, it references a student fee fund. Dr. McDonald, is that something we're still utilizing? It appears that dollars that are put in the student fee fund cannot be used for anything else.
Right, yeah, so that's, we do have a student fee fund, but then it's typically for any fees that would get collected from students would go into that, and would then be able to be utilized for those purposes only.
Okay.
Right.
Got it. Just making sure our policy still matches what we're doing in practice. Excellent. Okay.
I'm sorry, did they say 13? Is that?
Item 13, yes, is where it references a list.
About halfway through
Joanne's
that,
question.
yeah.
It's hard.
It is hard. She said it references a list that will detail out like the maximum amounts, but then there's not really that list in there. Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying not to yell at you guys, but I feel like I have to.
We need you to yell.
Yeah.
Repeat the question that was on the G, the student fee fund?
Yes, I
Wondered
just-
if there was a fee fund.
Yeah, I was just making sure that's actually what we were still doing in practice. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Anything on 5046, 5048, 5050, 5052?
My only note on that is just, I know that the current administration has been making a lot of changes, and so just making sure that we're still in compliance with any federal guidelines as far as student nutrition and all of those kinds of things. So again, it's something it changes often, and it depends on who's sitting in the big house on the hill in Washington, D.C. So
Yeah, I had some notes on that too. Not necessarily that a need to change policy, but I'm not sure what parts of this policy are there because of district language and what's there because of legal requirements. But there is a reference saying specifically that the district discourages the use of food as a reward or incentive, which is probably something that we might need to take a look at. I don't know if that has to remain in there, but I'm not sure that's something we're doing in practice. And then there is also some language in there that's pretty specific about marketing materials and not having non-compliant, like for instance, references to Coca-Cola or anything that doesn't adhere to the USDA Smart Snacks and school nutrition standards. So I'm not sure with some of our athletic opportunities and sponsorships that we have there. I think we all definitely value those things, but we also just don't want to be causing a problem for the district with funding in the future if we're violating something there. So not necessarily a change, but just probably something in reviewing that that we need to take a really good look at.
Yeah, typically most of the time when there's those changes from the federal level to the states, and then that comes out in the summer, and there's policy changes. So this was kind of the last.
Okay.
With the last policies that came out from the federal government, looking at their nutritional guidelines that they had, made some changes, and there are some major changes that have taken place recently, so I anticipate that we have a policy coming out in the future.
one other thing before we move on, there was also some language in there about that we provide notice of this policy annually. And so I was just wondering if we know where that's currently happening.
I can check, Joanne. Usually we have that on, schools typically put that on their website, as far as here is where the policy is located, and then that accessible on the website, so and it's reviewed on an annual basis. So, but yeah, let me check.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on that policy before we move on? Okay, excellent. How about 5053? Okay, 5054, I just had a note similar to above. We just need to probably link that form. There's a bullying reporting form of sorts that we we could
It's
just
in the
link
table of
right there.
contents, I just didn't add it.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
That's-
Okay. I think we've been doing that as we've gone through, we just haven't made it to these yet in that process, so, yes, okay. Let's see, 50-55.
I just had one question on that as well. Do we have any fees that are associated with the testing of students to get them into kindergarten early, or is that a service the district just provides to parents who are interested in that, or?
$100 fee.
That's something I don't recall that a fee, regardless of dollar amount, I don't know that the policy mentions a fee, so it might be worthwhile to just mention that there is a fee associated and not necessarily have to put a dollar amount, but just so people are aware. I mean, I'm sure if they call, they probably get that information anyway, but it might be worthwhile.
Thank you, Joanne. All right, 50-56. Any notes on that? All right, 50-57. I made a note, and my note doesn't even make sense to me, so 1 second. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think my note was important. Does anyone have anything on that one? Okay. 50-59. 50-61. 50-64. I just had a question just for our knowing, not a policy change, and Dr. McDonald, you'll probably be able to answer this question. There's language in there, and I know that this is federal requirement that the district has to ensure that title funds will not be used to provide services which otherwise take the place of public education services that are to be provided to all students. I know we've had instances in the past where we've moved like a title teacher to be a regular classroom teacher due to staffing needs. When we do that, is that causing big changes in our budget, or like how is that impacting based on the use of funds that's able to be used?
Yeah, so, those are grant dollars typically that we receive in 6,300 funds that the federal government is providing to the state. And so, within 4 of our elementaries, they are school-wide, and they're considered school-wide Title I program because they qualify for reduced, and those free and reduced numbers are close to 100%, and you can utilize teachers and staff in different capacities because it is within almost 100% of our capability being qualifying for these funds. And so they still qualify and still able to utilize a lot of the knowledge that the board is for staff wide within those buildings because it is considered a title.
Okay, got it. So basically building dependent.
Right.
Okay, perfect. That answers my question. Thank you. Okay, 50-65, 50-66. I have a note on that. That policy is worded a little odd in that I'm not really sure if the board is supposed to be taking some sort of action to acknowledge early graduators. The language in there kind of suggests that we are, but that's not anything that I've ever seen happen. I also don't necessarily know that it's necessary, so I'm not sure if we need to change that language. Any thoughts on that?
Which paragraph?
Hang on, let me pull that. Sorry, there's too many files to open and close on here.
You're talking about the notification?
Is that right after the first, where it says requirements for application, and then the next one, students must make an application to the high school principal?
So it says, actually on the last page, I think is where I was looking.
Okay.
Early graduates will be considered graduates of the district at the time the board confers such status upon them.
So that one's basically, they'll wrap up their early graduation, but they won't receive
their graduate, they will use their diploma.
Okay,
to
until
commencement.
commencement. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Just making sure we weren't missing something there that we were supposed to be doing. Okay, and then the last one here, 5067, anything that anyone has on any of those? Okay. All right. It looks like we may just have a couple of minor changes to make prior to our next meeting. I've been taking some notes here, so we need to send them your way.
You got them too.
Perfect. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Excellent. We will go ahead and move on then, if there's nothing else, to a continuation of our electronic records access, Google Vault use, and policy 3023. So again, that policy is attached there, and just kind of a brief summary. Cindy, I know you weren't here with us at our last meeting. The board is taking a look at this policy due to some concerns being brought forth, recent situations that brought to light the fact that board member emails were actually able to be accessed by potentially multiple people within the district. And so taking a look really at what the appropriateness is of that, we utilize a service called Google Vault, since all of our district accounts are Google. And so Google Vault, for anyone that has administrative privileges to that, is essentially a search function to be able to search into emails in the district. There's a variety of reasons that this is really important for us to have. One of them being a public records request, potentially if there were to ever be an allegation about student safety, unethical behavior, a court subpoena, things like that. So just really taking a look, our policy is very vague right now, and I think has created some gray areas that really could compromise our district. And so I did send out a lot of email attachments just for reference points for tonight's discussion. Joanne had found several policies that exist in other districts that kind of really outline more the board communication side of things. And so those would be something that we could consider adding into our policy, probably in that 1000 section, more like our board ethics and how we operate and what we should expect of our communication. There is also a separate policy that NASB recently put together that addresses specifically board member communications and how that should be accessed and why. So that's something else we can take a look at. And then there is some additional information from Brian Tegmeyer, our Director of Technology, that basically just outlines for the district how that's used, how he's seen other districts use Vault. The other district that he spoke to, theirs is very tight, like it's their technology director and I think one other person in that department that have that access. And then they are utilizing a service basically that allows that tech person to export a file if, say, student services or HR or somebody would need it, and then that person can still go through and make any redactions that need made, or redactions that need made prior to releasing that information in a public records request. So his recommendation was that we maybe look into something like that so that that can remain internal within our tech department, but still enable the other administrators in our district to be able to do their jobs and get the information they need as well. So I would like to open that up for any board discussion. I anticipate this is something that we're going to do some continual research on. I do think having a little bit more data of how often it's used might help us to make an informed decision. I don't want to tie people's hands in a situation that they need a program. So yeah, I would love to open that up and hear any thoughts from the board on the sample policies, the information sent over from Brian, any questions you may still have.
I did like the sample one that Joanne found.
The attachment one?
Yes,
The Wisconsin one?
yes, I did like that.
There, in looking at them, and it was a lot to digest in a short period of time, I think a lot of this form that we have in 3023, I think can be modified But I don't think we should be too rule out the number of people that can see it. Because I think there are times that people have to investigate things. Now, saying they get permission from, say, the tech or whatever it is, I would say, yes, that has to happen. But just to say, you know, technology is the only people that can control it, a lot of times they have their own little world that they live in, and then the education part is over here. I think that gets a little prescriptive, and I don't like that. And I think this is going to take us a while, because if you remember on the one policy we had, took us 3 months to get it taken care of. But I think we really need to be able to digest all of this and come back and think about what exactly it is that we want to do with it. But we shouldn't narrow our lane too much, because I think that would cause us more problems in the future.
One of the things that I really liked was when I had the conversation with Mr. Techmeyer and how the other district that he was able to share information from, they kind of have for lack of a better term, a two-key system. So it's like before you access the emails, you have to have two people that say, yes, I think this is a road that we need to go down. One of the things that I like about that is I think it keeps the accountability off of just one person. And so it makes it so that, you know, there's an agreement between two people, whether that be two different administrators or I guess whatever we set up as the format. And in here it talks about that it could be the building principal, and then also the associate superintendent is who this district puts that burden on as the second person to approve it. So anyway, I feel like instead of just putting the responsibility all on one person of being responsible for saying, okay, yeah, we're going to go into this email, then it gives another. The one thing that I did like about the policy from NASB is that if there were a reason, whether it be a FOIA request or what have you, as far as going into board member emails, that in some instances the board president would be notified or the board member themselves would be notified. And I think that's just a good practice, just so that not that we have anything to hide in our emails, or we shouldn't have anything to hide, but I think it's important that we know when our email is being accessed, just because I guess, I don't know.
I agree with you on that, Joanne. I like the idea of kind of a two-key system. And to speak to your concerns, Skip, I am going to respectfully disagree with you on a certain level of limiting who has immediate access to the program. And primarily because I think a two-key system is key.
I didn't say that a broad number of people. I said there should be a select number.
Yes, I agree.
And I don't have a problem with somebody else agreeing with it. And if a person's being looked at, depending on what it is, if it's something that is egregious, that could be liable for a lawsuit or something, if you're letting that person know, I think you could be getting ahead of what could be a real issue.
Well, part of it though too, with what I learned from Brian, is that even if emails, like, say like, I heard that there was a FOIA request against me, and I kind of freaked out for whatever reason, and I went in and deleted a whole bunch of stuff, they can pull all of that back.
Yeah,
So there's, they have limits set on how far they're retaining that information, and so really, I mean, the message is that you really shouldn't have anything in your email, in your Google Drive, any of those places that is going to get you in trouble in the first place, and that goes for students, staff, board, everybody. And so, you know, but just being able to have some accountability for who's going in there for what purpose. There's districts that also, when people go in, then they also have to say, so-and-so went in on this date, we were in there for this amount of time, and Brian told me that they're able to, it's not like they go in and just look through your whole inbox, at least his department, but they are able to search specific words in emails or in email titles or those kinds of things. And so really, it should just be that you're going in for, you know, a specific purpose, because we know that there's a student who's communicating with somebody and we really need to know, you know, what's going on, or, you know, that there's some sort of transaction happening at school that shouldn't be, and, you know, there's all sorts of situations that there may be a need to go into a student or staff or even board member email, but to be able to have the backup person who says yes, let's do it, and then also to have a written record of this is who went in, and not even necessarily a specific purpose, because like a person's name or whatever may be part of the sensitive material, so, but at least there's a record that was written, and you can have two people that have initialed off on it, so.
Yes, if I can finish what I had started to say too, I agree with you. However, only to a point. I firmly believe this access should be limited to our technology department. And there are a couple of reasons why. For one, the search is open-ended. You can go in with a blank search function. You do not have to have a search word, which is a little bit concerning. Two, my understanding is that the additional administrators that had vault access have since determined they don't need vault access and were asked to be removed from that system. I did discuss with Mr. Tegmeyer, based on the defined reasons that we would use vault and the frequency at which it is used for those reasons, if it would add any unnecessary burden to the technology department if somebody had to come to them with a request, and he said, no, not at all. And I do believe that we have a very robust technology department. I can't anticipate that if somebody needed a request, that it would take a whole lot longer to go to the technology department and request it, rather than them being able to hop on their own laptop from anywhere and access that. I am fine with this policy remaining somewhat open into how it's accessed, but only if we add an additional policy that specifies, kind of like this example that we see from NASB, school board member email access. Because board members are distinctly different than staff and than students. So in a board member administrator relationship, the board is the employer of superintendent and down from there. And I truly cannot think of any other professional setting where it would be ethical or appropriate for an employee to have unlimited access to their employer's email communications. There are things in a board member's email that are not subject to being released publicly if they contain private information. There are things that are discussed in board member emails that are contract negotiations or evaluations related. There are things in there that need to remain private. And so it is something that is going to have to be addressed. I think we can probably come to a consensus on this policy in front of us and keeping it open enough to make sure we're not inhibiting anyone being able to do what they need to do in the district. That is certainly not the intent here. I don't want to make anyone's jobs harder by any means, but I also think that this is a really eye-opening thing that this is even an option that someone would be able to do. So my recommendation would be we keep kind of working through with our technology department on what would be appropriate language and parameters within that policy. But my recommendation might be that we also bring an additional board-specific policy, and it could kind of be a combination of what we see here from NASB that outlines the importance of confidentiality, but also kind of some things that Joanne brought in her policy recommendations that outline appropriate use. Because I do think it's important as board members that we know anything you type in an email can be screenshot and put on the internet, and you are a representation of the district, and we should all be conducting ourselves as such. So we've got to have that balance there of professionalism and confidentiality.
Yeah, my biggest thing is, I mean, I don't, you know, we sign a thing when we get on the board. We know that we can pull our email records or anytime.
That's actually not what we sign. We sign network use.
Well, network use, but you can see it. It's there. It's not a secret. I don't have a problem with what I send out. I'll answer for all of it. But I have a problem when somebody comes to us because we're the board, we're the final thing. Now, we've had people who have come to us about, you know, something happened in my classroom, and we go into the chain of command. Hey, this is how you go to your teacher. Yeah. But we're that last step on that chain of command, and if we have something and that's being intercepted by someone, that's just not, it's not appropriate or okay. I like the idea of technology because I don't know that they care. I'm very bothered by the fact that somebody can do an open search and just type in my name and be like, let's see what they've got going on. That's absolutely not okay. I mean, if you want to see that I text Mrs. Fleck and told her she did great tonight, then that's fine. But if she ever has a problem and comes to me, that should be confidential. I should be able to talk to her without her worrying about repercussions from someone else.
Are there any further questions that we as a board have of additional information or resources that we feel like we need in order to further this discussion along?
I think I need a little bit more time to read
Digest.
all this. So,
I think that's a fair request.
thank you.
Absolutely. That is a lot. Okay. Any further discussion or questions on this item? Okay. If not, we will go ahead and move along. Our next item here is a board discussion that should be relatively brief, an update regarding some legal matters. So at this time, we'll have Cindy move us into closed session.
I move pursuant to section 84-1410, the reissue of the revised statute of 1992, known as the Nebraska Public Meetings Law, that the board hold a closed session for the purpose of discussion of the following items: personnel matters. I further move that this closed session is clearly necessary for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of an individual, and that strategy sessions with respect to real estate, litigation, and collective bargaining are specifically authorized by the Nebraska Public Meetings Law.
Second.
Skip Alter.
Aye.
Joanne Lynn Green. Mitch Wagner. Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Emily Garrett.
Aye.
Cindy Bob.
Aye.
Okay, board, we will just go to this first classroom down here on the right. Okay, Sheila, we came out at 8 o'clock exactly.
8 o'clock straight up and walked out.
Okay. We are just going to discuss just kind of a brief update here. I don't foresee us taking action tonight, but it is advertised as such, so somebody can make a motion if you want. But let's discuss first. So we have approved a resignation from Dr. Todd Rhodes effective June 30th, 2026, which means that moving forward, the board will be tasked with filling our role of superintendent, starting July 1 moving forward. Everything that I have learned about this process would suggest that trying to fill that with a long-term position at this point in the year would not be in the best interest of the district. A lot of individuals have already signed contracts. That pool may not be as large as we would want it to be. And so I think first we need to identify as a board what that search is going to look like moving forward. If there is anybody that has strong opinions about wanting a long-term, you are certainly welcome to voice them, but I think it would be in the best interest for the district to look at that being an interim position starting July 1. Is there any discussion or questions, just first and foremost laying that out there on that?
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly because starting this time of year, they're trying to find a superintendent to fill a full-time position. The candidates there have already signed their contracts and superintendents and so forth. So I think going with an interim starting July 1 would be by far the best choice. And there are a lot of people that we can choose, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But I think to fill the interim starting July 1st would be the best bet.
Yeah, I agree. And I read through all the different places to go through. And last time we used NASB, and I just thought they were phenomenal. I know the costs, but they were really good and thorough.
So there is information attached here. The attachment document is provided from Sherry at NASB. She and I did have a phone call, and she kind of went over like a potential timeline, their processes. I thought her document that she sent over really probably answered a lot of board questions. When it comes to cost incurred for the district, if we were to hire NASB as a search firm, it costs $2,500 for an interim search, and it is $9,000 for a long-term search. So it does come with a price tag that is certainly worthy of consideration. There are also a couple of other places that are linked there below. One of them, I think it was Joanne and I both received an email from this Zeal Education Group. They are not a local group, but I wanted to make sure that I did the due diligence in forwarding that information. So that link takes you directly to the website that they sent in an attachment to us that kind of outlines their processes. Honestly, they had some helpful information there, so I did glean some things from it. So that would be one option that we could look into more information if we wanted to. Of course, NERCSA is an option, and then Matt and Jake is an option there as well, which I believe the district has used before in the past. Is that the one?
Yes, that's the one that I'm not real happy about. So
tell us how you really feel.
well, I'm real honest about it. A couple of poor superintendents we got came from them, so I'm not real thrilled with them. Their whole way they go about things is way different.
Yeah.
And I was a teacher at that time, and I don't think they listened to anybody. Seriously, I don't think they listened to anybody when they did all of their work. So.
Do we have any questions as a board about any of these?
Well, again, I think it's stuff we need to look at and talk about. And we're going to meet again in 10 days. So. Be our 5th meeting.
Yeah, lots of bonding time, guys. Yeah, I will share so I'm not sure that it's clearly outlined in the document with NASB. And I will say my opinion, I do think that they probably are the best option for us as a district, just based on the size of our district and what I think our needs will be. I think they're best suited in filling that role. I also do think that they've been a great support to us as a district in many different aspects, and so I think that would be a natural step in working together with them. So some of the things that were shared with me. So Sherry's proposal, and I don't know that the board is prepared to do this proposal. This was what she proposed, and we can do whatever we want. Her thought was that the board should really kind of collect some thoughts as a board on our goals, what we would like to see in our next superintendent, things that are, key points or issues or goals, obviously strategic plan related, that candidate should be aware of for our district, that she should be aware of, and kind of collect those as a board and provide them to her. Her suggestion was we could start that discussion as early as right now and could send them to her. If we were to take action on hiring them as a search firm, they would list the job as early as tomorrow. So that would be a fairly quick moving process. And then from there, her recommendation would be at our next board meeting, which is February 9th, maybe doing a workshop with the board. So she would come out to the meeting. We could either do that as part of our agenda or like at 4:30 prior to our regular agenda to really discuss, for her to provide an update on if any candidates had expressed interest at that point, to really hone in on board goals. And then ideally, if we went with that timeline, by our February committee of the whole meeting, she felt pretty confident that she would have candidates to bring to the board. So that is all under the assumption that we would take action tonight. If we wait to take action on this, which I think is totally acceptable, that would obviously prolong each of those steps another meeting. So essentially, on February 9th, we could take action for February committee of the whole, we could have a workshop, and then we would be looking at seeing candidates in March. So just wanted to put that out there for the board, see if you had thoughts on timeline.
Okay, I think we should wait until February 9th. I really do.
And you're talking interim candidates at this point.
Interim,
right?
yes,
In
starting July 1.
Starting July.
Yes.
Yes, I think we should wait till the 9th.
So do we need a motion to table, or just because of
No, this was a
discussion?
Yep, it's a discussion item with the ability to take action if we wanted to.
So,
Yep. Yep, and there's no motion on the table. I have some reservation about waiting, just because I know how long things take when we only can operate and do things in public meetings. So that's my only reservation, is if we're getting into March and bringing somebody on, potentially making a hiring decision end of March, even looking in the beginning of April, depending on how meetings fall. That makes me a little bit nervous to not feel like we have a plan for our district effective just a couple months out. 3 months, I guess it would be at that point. So the only thing that I want to be really cognizant of is I don't want it to be construed that the board is like avoiding this issue. I really do want our district to feel like there is a stable future and we know where we're heading. So those are my only reservations. If the consensus is to wait, I am happy to do that. I just am doing it a little cautious.
I think 10 days isn't that long to wait. I don't.
Well, I'm fine with you.
Any strong feelings on this end of the table?
Not really. I think waiting is a good idea, but at the same time, I'm not going to be at February's committee of the whole, so I really want to.
Well, you'll be at the board meeting.
Yeah.
February 9th.
But if she came and we did a workshop at the board meeting, I'd be there.
Well,
I
we
won't be
would-
at the committee of the whole.
But the workshop can be set up anytime.
So we can do another meeting?
We are not doing
Oh,
another
okay.
meeting.
I'm just trying.
But
Right, I get you.
if you aren't here, then we could set it up for some other time, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, and I'm sure that if it's a workshop with Sherry, there would probably be an opportunity for you to send some information. Like if you had, some
Because you won't be
strong
voting
points.
on it.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it's more just an information gathering for her.
Yeah.
So
And I can
think
handle it, I mean.
we can.
It would be held, if that was the case, it would be held before the
Yeah.
committee of the whole that night, if we do it that way. She's very amiable as long as, but I still think we should wait till that Monday the night to do any action on it.
Well, I think we can read up on all of them and just to make sure. I mean, I read all the stuff that you sent out, but kind of dig into it farther.
I'm fine either way, but it takes me time to process.
Okay.
Slow.
I think giving ourselves a little more time to process is just fine. So
We've just had a lot to process in the last
we
month, so let's.
yes, we have. Okay. Is there any further discussion on that or any questions that the board has for any of these search firms or anything moving forward? Okay.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I knew where you were going.
Do you? Okay. Roll call.
Joanne Green. Aye. Mitch Wagner.
Aye.
Angela Blaze.
Aye.
Amy Garrett.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye. Oh,
Aye.
Thank you.